Trace with Media Commons here. Carla, you don't, would be, who's her equivalent?
It's Marker.
No, okay. Carla is the eastern part of the state.
Yeah, I bet. It's 2 years ago.
Oh.
That's okay.
So when Ryan had one of his marching orders this morning when we left the auditorium was that this is really your session. We're here to answer any questions that you may have. We can talk about the Knowledge Commons, Media Commons, and the partnership here in the library. But if there's anything specific that you want to make sure we cover, whether there is like a question or what are things that you want to know? Bruce, you had said just information.
Yeah, because I would like to get better at taking advantage of opportunities to incorporate media more in the structure. So,
okay.
And I'm just curious because we're doing sort of the Knowledge Commons considerations, evaluations for Greater Allegheny, and we have some of the equipment that's associated with Media Commons Library, but any of the facilities are over in the computer lab in a separate building.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we're thinking about is, if in that redesign, with mystery money and everything, it makes sense for those things to come over into the library. That sort of thing.
Okay.
Very, very general as well.
Slightly two different kind of angles. Why don't we start with you talking about some of the projects and things that Media Commons is working with the library on, specifically in the classroom and kind of the range of things that are taking place. And Carla, you can then also, if there's things that are going on at the campuses.
Sure.
Talk about.
Yeah, before Media Commons was part of the Knowledge Commons. Started off, we were just one office off of a lab over in Pollock Building, and had access to the computer lab out there, and then that evolved into having a studio space, and then a separate editing room with 5 Macintoshes, and then kind of evolved from there, finding the software that we were able to continually support, to basically begin working with faculty on a way to integrate multimedia into their coursework. And as it evolved, we didn't have a classroom space there. We would have the faculty schedule one of about 5 different labs on campus, and then we would go there, teach their class how to use iMovie for video editing, how to begin thinking about a video project, how to record a podcast. Basically, use that to drive traffic to the Media Commons, where we could then students.
And you would teach them. You would teach the students how to use iVideo.
iMovie. Yeah.
iMovie. Okay. And is it because the instructor wasn't familiar enough or comfortable enough teaching that?
That's part
was
of
the instructor using
No, it's part of one of our services.
Okay.
I do it at the campuses where I work with the faculty member. Talk about their project, kind of work through the project with them, how to best set it up.
So you might work individually with the faculty member to develop something and then come into the classroom.
I think we prefer doing that than just kind of being put into a class. That way we really can tailor our presentation to.
That's what I was
wondering.
How would you know
specific assignment?
Yeah, if they want to focus more on, a voiceover part of it, and they don't really want them to use the green screen, then maybe we'll, kind of shorten up the green screen section and really spend time on that voiceover. So we try to, work with them as much as they can, and then it also helps us out, incorporating it in to their course objectives, that it all aligns and goes the way that they wanted to. So it's really enriching for the student. We try to, have it that, maybe when they come in for training, we know that they've already kind of done a storyboard, that their mind is, you know, where
So they
that
come in with a
topic
solid
is.
idea of what they want to see.
That's
Sometimes.
that's what we hope for. That, like, you know, it's,
Yeah, one of the workshops that was developed in conjunction with the library was taking the digital storytelling workshop and really expanding on that into the scholarly storytelling workshop, and using storytelling principles as a way to present research, and I really begin to think of that. Presenting it visually in an engaging manner that uses it to its full effect. So it's not just creating a glorified slideshow or music video, but something that interweaves all the elements and really can tell something in a more powerful fashion.
to me, it's kind of like taking a paper and making it into a video or a podcast, like putting that kind of thought, that kind of research, that kind of scholarly thought into it.
I've done that workshop with Nick at Great Opportunities so that the faculty have an understanding that it's not that all of the same things that you would require students to use and to do if they were going to do a traditional research paper. All of those components are still part of that digital project. They still have to do research. They still should use quality resources, some of which are accessible from the library. They still have to, develop some sort of outline, whether that's in a storyboard format or traditional outline. They still need to be thoughtful about what places they need to have text and what places do they need to use video, what places do they need to use images, and where they need to insert their own voice so that it becomes a richer product, but it's still the same research elements, and it's still going to have those same learning outcomes that you would have even if you were assigning some sort of research paper for the project.
How do students present the references then? Is there a reference page submitted?
Sometimes it's added as credits at the end of the video. One of the things that started doing is actually having a QR code that can then be linked to a website, so that can link out to the individual elements as a way to keep something with the video that still can access all the information, actually make it even richer, that people can find.
They can actually access the sources.
Yeah.
I've had where like students use a Google document and they'll email that link to the instructor. I've also had, I think, where they just print out a bibliography like they would for a paper and they hand
Turn
that
it in separately.
separately.
So you primarily work with MLA in this?
Depends on what they're
It just
using. It
depends
depends
on
on the
what they're-
instructor. If APA is more appropriate, then they use APA, so you still have that kind of
It just depends on the
not
class.
learning still going on as well with regards to the sources that they select.
They would still have to develop a reference page or works cited page.
Right,
correctly
absolutely.
formatted to
And what we really kind of promote with the Scholarly Storytelling on our website with the free media is that it works differently than a paper for certain types of media, so they just have to be aware of certain things like that. And then also there's, typically we have had students submitting their videos to a private YouTube channel, and then that way the instructor can see all the videos, and then maybe separately they would bring in the video class.
And then the students would then watch each other's videos?
It just depends on the class. Sometimes they do, other times
I think that'd be
it's
wonderful.
yeah. Sometimes they do. I know a lot of my instructors kind of do it as the last day, like kind of like a fun activity, like the last Thursday of classes, or last Friday of classes. They'll get popcorn or pizza, and then they'll do like a screening session,
And the
and
instructor
that's for
can-
semester-long projects. Other ones that might be like, making a speech or building on something, maybe they'll watch it multiple times and they'll take days to do that. I've had like classes that have done language classes that they will watch, how they spoke and kind of learn how they need to change a certain sound or something like that from that. But most of the time it's a semester-long project and they watch it at the end if they do. Otherwise, the instructor watches it.
The ones I've been associated with and aware of, yeah, towards the end of the semester, you know, if students have drafts, for example, that are due, they'll watch those as a class, and then there's some, you know, peer-to-peer feedback that goes on.
Similar to what would happen with peer editing on a paper.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And so is a substantial amount of class time then spent on this? Is
It
this
is.
expected to be done outside of class?
Um,
We expect our
when
students
they're
to
doing the
compose their
video
papers
projects,
outside of
yeah,
class.
it's an outside class. The training is during class typically,
Yeah.
during the class period. Like with the campuses, Nick and I do 3 trainings a semester, like an intro in the beginning, which I just kind of finished all of those. Now moving into the second, which is more in depth. You know, they should already be doing their storyboard and their scripts, and then we kind of do a critique day where they'll bring back their project that's mostly finished, and then like we'll just give them some polishing points at that point. And sometimes we're asked to, you know, just watch the video as it is and then give them points on that. In fact, where an instructor actually has them like mock present their project and see how it goes. And all of that is done during class, but the video and everything else, that's on another time.
Are they largely made in the library?
Well, with the Media Commons, we offer server space and we offer
Okay.
support through the computer remotely. So, you know, if a student has their own Mac or their own, you know, way of editing video, we'll certainly try to support them, but it's easier for us to do so when they're in our space. And then also with that, then they have all that space where they can back up to our servers and they don't have to worry about, you know, getting their own external hard drive or something like that.
So a student could be editing in this room, back their stuff up to the server, and then tomorrow go across campus to the
And
Axon Media Commons and still have access to it. Sometimes that's more convenient because they were over here and they want to get together as a group to record narration and use the one button studio.
Mhm.
And then, you know, do a little bit of work here, but because they live in these halls, it's much more convenient to
One thing I
do
think
the other.
with the campuses is getting them to understand that they can't like go from PC to Mac or any other Macs on campus. Like it's only the Media Commons ones that are connected to that server. And usually most of the campuses on the eastern side I can say to are in the library. Not
On the western side, it's very.
and not all of them, but a
Some of
good
them.
majority are. But you know, they're usually all there's only a few that aren't all in the same building. So, but just getting them to know like they can't go if there's another Mac like kiosk, they can't access that server. It's only Media Commons computers. So,
I think, too, can I address one of the concerns you have is, you know, is how do we get the hook? And one of the things that I've observed, so we opened the Knowledge Commons in January of this year, so this is all a very new setting for us. And Courtney's very much aware of this, but it's really bringing together a combination of different services in one location. So the buzz or the phrase, the marketing phrase is the one-stop shop. Now, you've been hearing about Media Commons and how the library works very closely with our multimedia consultants. We also have a range of IT services in this area. Those services are, they all fall under the IT services here on campus. They're all known as lab consultants, but we distinguish them by the color of their t-shirt. So we have the blue team that supports any of the equipment in this space, but they're also available on the instant messaging system where they can check to see if there's a problem anywhere else in the library. We have the green team that supports hardware that you bring in, so anything that you personally own that you're having trouble with, they can help you with. And then we have the purple team to support software. So students who have trouble with creating that bar graph in Excel, you know, the instructor doesn't want to be spending time in the class for, they can refer them to the purple team to do that. In the evenings, we have writing tutors in writing, and then I'm looking at working with the Learning Center on campus and also adding math tutors in this space. The emphasis in the Knowledge Commons is to provide students with the range of services they need to support them in their assignments. And what I've noticed with some of the chancellors and the DAAs visiting from the campuses, having been from the campus originally, is that those who have some interest have been here. My chancellor that I worked with at Hazleton has been here to visit it. My chancellor that I worked with in Scranton does not have any interest in it and has not been here to see it at all. And trying to figure out how to get that hook and buy-in. One of the things that has helped, I think, it has impressed the ones I've met with, has been this kind of combination of services, and it makes sense. It makes more sense for us to be working side by side with MediaCom consultants and IT support than it does with advising our food services. I mean, those were the services we're going to be combined with in Scranton. So one is that. The other thing is to have what I say the wow factor. And it's been interesting to me to see administrators coming in here and what catches their eye. And the one-button studios has been one of the things that has really been a draw. And the group study rooms has been the other thing. Seeing a bank of computer doesn't impress anybody anymore. I've noticed. I mean, they just, when they first walk in and just see the bank of computers and they see the help desk, it's just an elaborate lab. But creating areas where students are working together collaboratively, that they're actually creating the end product and seeing how that ties in with the services that we're providing, I am hoping that we're actually having an impact on the campuses who are looking at, what is the next step? Because the library has always had services, but people tend to kind of get focused on our stuff and not our services. And so now the emphasis, the thing that we're trying to promote and create in places like this is the services that are provided. We can still get our stuff. We still have ways to get the stuff for students. But and then the other aspect that is part of this that I don't always mention is that this also is the area for the Office of Adaptive Technology. So students with special needs, that service is part of the Knowledge Commons. And special needs has traditionally been students with hearing and visual impairments. And so they work very heavily, especially with the audiobooks that are out there, to make sure that they meet the standards that are important to work with the course software, course management system, but also that they are a good enough quality that they'll suffice for the students. But they also work with and provide help for students with ADD. So students who need less, they need some supervision, they need some quiet time, they need rooms, private rooms where they can have the lights and the sound control, but also some kind of support. They're structured, they're there to help in that. So that looking at the whole student and realizing that the whole student is not just going to be somebody who's up with all the technology and can just step in and do all this, but who's going to need some help, either learning some of that software, learning some of the hardware, or just needing the space to work either in a collaborative setting or find a private place to study. And that's some instruction.
And I know that and they're noticing with admissions that there are more and more students who are coming in with those types of challenges, the physical challenges and the challenges of being sort of ADD or ADHD. And so our facilities, I would say, for Greater Allegheny are not up to snuff in regards to that, and knowing that you're going to need to support more students.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important.
So I don't know if I met your administration?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. They've been here. Okay.
Yeah, no, because I didn't know all of the services, all of the things that were being brought together, and the team information as well, the
Right.
teams with regards to systems. That's also something, a layer that I hadn't thought about.
And I meet with those key people. So we have the blue team, green team. Each one of those teams has a supervisor who oversees it. And so I meet with them. I meet weekly with, we're part of a group that gets together just to kind of check in with each other. So the full range of IT services, including Media Commons. And then I have meetings with the different learning centers on campus. So the person who's in charge of the writing and math tutors, the person who's over in engineering, we have, if you're in, even education, have you been in Chambers?
Yeah, at some point.
Okay, Chambers on the second floor has the Innovation Studio, and it's a very cool space. It's very different. I love people who are interested in doing renovations to take them from here to over to Chambers, or to meet them in Chambers and bring them here, because it's a lot of the same type of technology. It's a lot of the same type of pedagogical insight, and trying to provide places for students to work in groups, but it's in very different settings. So they have things called privacy pods. They have they have a very different type of feel to it. They also have a unit where it's all bring your own device. You got BYOD now is what the phrase is. And so their classroom has the MediaScape, has the ability to hook their laptops up to project on the screen, but they bring in their own laptops. It's expected that the students would do that.